The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. Welcome to Pain Free Today with your host, Denis Thompson. Brought to you by Worldwide Advanced Medical Technologies, LLC. Call 954-256-0045 or online at painmanagementnetwork.com. Here you will learn how to eliminate your pain. You will learn about a revolutionary new therapy called the ARP Wave System, which treats the neurological origin of pain, not the symptoms. You will learn how to increase your range of motion and how you can move freely without pain at any age. You will learn how you can try one free treatment from one of our local providers. Denis Thompson has 25 years' experience working with top athletes and non-athletes of all types. He has treated thousands of patients with better than a 95% success rate. His list of athlete clients reads like a who's who of the sports world. Listen and find out how the ARP Wave System can benefit you. And now, here's your host, Denis Thompson.
Good morning. This is Pain Free Today, and I am your host, Denis Thompson. Just back from Washington, D.C. We were at the Association of Interventional Pain Professionals. Had a great convention. Met a lot of very, very interesting physicians. Had some great dialogue. For those of you who are new to the show, I'd like to introduce you to a totally different way of looking at pain. Everyone, up until the time that you probably listened to this show, has addressed your pain where it bothers you. So if you have pain in your back, the therapy will be done in your back. If you have pain in your elbow, the therapy will be done in your elbow. If you have a headache, obviously the therapy will be done to relieve the headache. However, most therapy, I won't say all, but most therapy is designed to address the symptom, where the problem ended. There is very few therapies, if any, other than the ARP Wave neurotherapy, which addresses the pain at the originating site, the neurological system. Most of our providers who are listening today, and we welcome you, have been trained in physical medicine. They have not been trained in the neurology of that physiological symptom, whether they be a surgeon, a medical doctor, pain specialist, et cetera, et cetera. This is a totally new way of addressing the major issue that we have throughout the world, and that is pain. If you look at it in a very simplistic manner, wherever you have pain is where the problem ended. Wherever you have an MRI that tells you the problem is a tear, that's where the problem ended. Whenever you see an X-ray and it shows a break or a fracture, that's where the problem ended, not where it came from. So if you only work on where the problem ended, you are not really solving the problem. You're solving where the problem ended. So what we're doing is teaching doctors throughout the world a neurological therapeutic system, which is added to what they are presently doing. There's nothing new about it. It's not alternative medicine. It is another way of looking at pain from the origin, not the symptom. So our system, who we are, which we train throughout the world, as I said, to physicians, surgeons, et cetera, starts with three components. The first component is we believe that everything, all pain, all discomfort, all injury results from the body's inability to absorb force, which means that every time you take a step, you're absorbing force. Now, if your nervous system the central CPU that drives everything in your body, is not firing your muscles correctly, you are not going to be able to absorb that force, and it is just a matter of time before that force goes to tissue not designed to absorb that force, such as tendons, ligaments, fascia, bone. Those tissues are not designed to absorb force. So to identify, is your nervous system working or not, we have created a very simple evaluation test in the neurotherapy system set up by ARP Wave. And that test is that we realize that your muscles are the outward expression of your nervous system. So what we do is we test your muscle, not to see how strong you are. We test your muscles to determine, can you absorb force? Because if you cannot, you either already have a problem or you're soon to have a problem. So that's the first step in our system. And when we were at the conference this weekend, we discussed it with a number of doctors, and I thought it was quite interesting, and we came up with a simple analogy. This test that we do is what we like to call an external EMG. And what an EMG does is it measures the input neurologically of the signals going into your body. So for anyone in pain today, I'm here to tell you there is a way, with the help of our providers here in the metropolitan area, there is a way we believe that we can allow you a quality of life that you do not have right now. But there's only one way to know for sure if this therapy will work for you, because therapy is not a panacea. It doesn't help everyone. But I can assure you, over the last 12 years, we've treated over 75,000 patients with better than a 95% success rate. Why? Because we are dealing where the pain is coming from, not where the pain is ending up. So if you're a provider and this intrigues you, we have patients for you. If you're a patient, we have providers for you. Just simply give us a call at 954-256-0045, and we will basically make that introduction. So, doctors, we would love to demonstrate our therapy to you, which is done in addition to everything you're presently doing. And patients, we would love to introduce you to our providers in the area, and they will offer you one free evaluation to prove to you beyond a shadow of a doubt that it either can help you or can't help you. Because there's really only one way you're ever going to know, and that's actually to go through a session. And that includes the doctors, because what we do is so dramatically different than anything you've ever done before, you really must experience it. And for that reason, we offer that opportunity. So again, please give us a call at 954-256-0045 and set up a time to where you can try ARP Wave's neurotherapy in addition to anything else you've ever done. And I think you'll find out very, very quickly that it will be very effective and change your quality of life. So the system is comprised of three components. The first component is we need to determine, is the nervous system doing what it's supposed to do? And think of the nervous system as, like I said earlier, a CPU. Think of it as the main software for your body. And now look at it as most providers work on your hardware. So if you have a software problem and you're working on the hardware, you are not going to solve the problem. Conversely, if you have a hardware problem and you're working on the software, you're not going to solve the problem. So what we're doing is basically working on, simple analogy, the software. And most providers do not do that. So this is a brand new therapy that can be done in your doctor's office, and it is extraordinarily effective because, it is working at the origin of the problem, not the end of the problem. So again, the system is three parts. We have to identify, is the nervous system working correctly? If it isn't, we have to get it working correctly. Now, many of you have been to chiropractors, and they've given you an adjustment, and what that does is it kind of starts the neurological engine. But after that, nothing reinforces that. So nothing is reestablishing that neurological connection. So if you leave the chiropractor's office and you go do any type of therapy, that therapy, unless it's neurotherapy, did not reinforce what you just did at your doctor's office. What neurotherapy does is it neurologically retrains you to change your movement pattern. It neurologically trains you to keep your muscles in a position to where they can absorb force. They can be a shock absorber. If they're not a shock absorber, the shock is going to go to places it's not designed to go. So again, the first step is identifying, is the nervous system working correctly? If it isn't, we have a protocol to basically stimulate the nervous system, to get it to fire correctly, to get it to accelerate the signal going to the muscle, to allow the muscle then to act as a shock absorber, keeping force out of your body. So if you have a knee problem, if you're bone on bone in your hip, if you're bone on bone in your knee, if you need spinal fusion, I can categorically tell you your muscles are not working as shock absorbers. If you have carpal tunnel, if you have any joint pain whatsoever, you have a muscle that is not supporting that joint. It is just that simple. And if you work on the joint, you are not solving the problem. You must work on the shock absorber and transfer that force out of that area. So the second part of our system is that once we get the nervous system working, it's kind of like we're putting new shocks on the body. Well, if you take shocks off your car and you drive around town for a while, it's going to be a rough ride. You're not going to do a lot of damage, but if you drive from coast to coast, you're going to create a lot of damage. So when you put brand new shocks on your car, you've also got to fix the damage caused by the shocks not working. Well, the second part of our system in our therapy is neurologically addressing all of the damage caused by the shocks not doing what they're supposed to do. In other words, all that force going into your knee. Right now, if your knee hurts you and you stand up, it hurts. But if you stand up and retransfer that force out of your knee into your hamstring, it will not hurt. It is just that simple. The problem is, you as a patient don't know how to do that. The problem is, you have never been shown how to do that. Well, I hear our time is, I hear our signal there. Please listen very carefully to the next statements you will hear, because that will tell you how you can actually try this therapy in your provider's office, in your area, at absolutely no cost, to prove to you it does or doesn't work. I will be right back.
Individuals who have been unsuccessful in eliminating their pain are invited to obtain a free ARP Wave System treatment. Register now on our website at painmanagementnetwork.com to arrange a free ARP Wave System treatment from one of the doctors in our ARP Wave South Florida Provider Network. You can also call 954-256-0045 in order to schedule your free evaluation and first treatment. Contact us now at 954-256-0045 or visit our website, www.painmanagementnetwork.com, and register to begin a new life pain-free. The ARP Wave Provider Network is also currently looking for doctors to join our network. We have an increasing number of patients who are looking for doctors to perform treatments using the ARP Wave System to help them eliminate pain they are experiencing. Contact us now at 954-256-0045 888-0045 to have a representative come out and see you, or visit our website, www.painmanagementnetwork.com, and register for an appointment with one of our representatives. Once you are in our network, we can start referring you patients located in your area looking for doctors performing ARP Wave System treatments.
Well, we are back, and I've been asked to give out this number. We have a full line. However, if you'd like to ask a question live on the show, you can call in at 888-565-1470, and we will try our level best to get those calls answered. We have a lot of material to discuss today, but we will try our best to get those calls in as they come in. So back to our system. We left off at the second part of our system is basically fixing all the damage caused by the muscles not doing what they were supposed to do, which is absorb force. That is a neurological function. It is not a physical function. So let me ask all of you out there, if you're in pain, have you noticed that you've changed the way you walk? Have you noticed that you've changed the way you sit in a chair? Have you noticed that you changed the way that you lay in bed? Have you noticed those patterns? Trust me, everyone around you has, and you may not have noticed what you're doing. If you're sitting in a chair and your legs are wide open and your feet are spread out, there's a reason. And that is a neurological reason, not a physiological reason. And no amount of physical exercise, no amount of physical therapy is going to change a neurological pattern. The only way you change a neurological pattern is retraining you neurologically. In other words, re-educating you neurologically on how to perform those tasks. If your switches are off, in other words, what I mean by that is, if I came over to your home today and I turned the main power in your home off, and you came home at 9, 10 o'clock at night and tried to flip a switch, the lights are not going to work. No matter how hard you try to turn the switch on and off, they're not going to work. So if you are experiencing pain and have been experiencing pain for years, my guess is your light power is off. And until you neurologically reinstall or turn that switch on, you're going to continue to have exactly the same problems you have right now. So what we're doing in the South Florida area here, and throughout the world for that matter, is we're setting up providers to administer our therapy to you, the patient. It is our hope and it is our belief that you can live pain-free without medication, no matter what your age is. All we have to do is find out, is your nervous system working correctly? Are your muscles absorbing force? And fix the damage caused by the muscles not absorbing force. So our system is 3 parts. Number 1, find out, is the nervous system working? Number 2, if it isn't, stimulate it to turn it back on. The second part, fix all the damage caused by the nervous system not working correctly. The third part is change your overall ability to absorb force. And it's done through a very, very structured program. And it is incredibly successful if you follow the program. For the providers listening, this therapy is 100% predictable if you follow our simple protocols. And we will train a staff member of yours to administer this therapy. And you can bill insurance for it and get reimbursed for it. More importantly, you will be able to have a system in place that will dramatically change your patient results. And it's not about taking something away from what you're doing. It's about adding something to what you're doing. Because the overwhelming number of people who have pain continue to have pain. This, I believe, can assist all of us in living and moving freely without pain. The name of our show is Pain Free Today. If you'd like to know how you can be pain-free today, feel free to contact us at 954-256-0045 or on the web, painmanagementnetwork.com. If you're a patient and your doctor does not offer neurotherapy, ARP Wave neurotherapy, ask him or her if they would be interested in having us demonstrate on you the therapy in their office, so both of you simultaneously can see if it helps you or it doesn't help you. And there's absolutely no cost to either one of you for that opportunity. So providers, we're reaching out for patients on your behalf. Patients, we're reaching out for providers on your behalf. The whole goal of the provider network is to set up the nation's largest network of neurotherapy specialists administering the ARP Wave System. So, how does the ARP Wave System work? Why does it work so efficiently? What is so unique about it? All these questions come into us almost every single week via email. I think the easiest answer to all of those questions is, and the biggest question, is it new? The system is not new. This is not experimental. We as a company, before we reached out to teach doctors all over the world, had our own specialists treating over 75,000 patients with better than a 95% success rate. Many of our patients were told that they needed a new knee, a new hip. We're told they had to have spinal fusion. We're told they had literally irreversible neurological damage. We're told that they would never walk again. We're told that they'd have to live in pain. We're told that they'd have to live on medication for the rest of their life. Take that population and have a 95% success rate, and you will understand very, very quickly why we have some of the leading professional teams and professional athletes from all over the world as clients. When we were a provider, we provided those services for those clients. Now, as a company, because of the statistics that we have, because of the studies that we have, because of the credibility that we have, and because of our deep, burning desire to help as many people as we possibly can, we are changing our company focus from being a provider to setting up, as I said, the nation's largest network of professionals throughout the world administering this therapy. It is not physical therapy. It is not anything like you have ever seen before. It addresses the neurological origin of the physiological symptom. and it retrains you, the patient, neurologically on how to stop consistently sending the signal that there is a problem, that there is pain. Anyone in pain knows exactly where it hurts. I have never seen a patient out of 75,000 patients who did not know where it hurt. I've never seen a doctor who did not know where it hurt. Unfortunately, that's not where it came from. And if you work on where it hurt, and you have therapy on where it hurt, I can almost guarantee you are not solving the problem. What you're doing is you're satisfying and reducing the symptoms of the problem, but you're not satisfying the problem. How about surgery? Does surgery solve the problem? Does surgery answer the question, why did this happen? When you're bone on bone and you're told by your surgeon, which is 100% true, you're bone on bone. And in some cases, surgery is indicated, in some cases, it's not. And when it's not indicated, what do you, the patient, do? You search out for another means of getting rid of that pain. Usually medication, physical therapy, exercise. But what you're not addressing is why you're bone on bone. And the reason you're bone on bone, and there's only one reason you're bone on bone, is because your shock absorbers, your muscles, are not absorbing force. And doesn't mean you're not strong. I deal with some of the strongest men in the world and strongest women in the world, and they're still bone on bone. Why? Because strength does not equate to ability to absorb force. So if you cannot absorb force, you could be the strongest person in the world and still end up bone on bone. Now, once you know why, you can solve the problem. Until you know why, you cannot solve the problem. You can solve the symptoms, no question about it. Many of you have probably had multiple surgeries because the surgery solved where the problem ended. It did not solve why you had to have it. The ARP Wave System answers that question. Why? We'll be right back.
Individuals who have been unsuccessful in eliminating their pain are invited to obtain a free ARP Wave System treatment. Register now on our website at painmanagementnetwork.com to arrange a free ARP Wave System treatment from one of the doctors in our ARP Wave South Florida provider network. You can also call 954-256-0045 in order to schedule your free evaluation and first treatment. Contact us now at 954-256-0045 or visit our website www.painmanagementnetwork.com and register to begin a new life pain-free. The ARP Wave Provider Network is also currently looking for doctors to join our network. We have an increasing number of patients who are looking for doctors to perform treatments using the ARP Wave System to help them eliminate pain they are experiencing. Contact us now at 954-256-0045 to have a representative come out and see you, or visit our website, www.painmanagementnetwork.com, and register for an appointment with one of our representatives. Once you are in our network, we can start referring you patients located in your area looking for doctors performing ARP Wave System treatments.
Well, we are back, and welcome back to Pain Free Today. My name is Denis Thompson. I'm your host, And we were at the pain management show, interventional pain management show in Washington, D.C. this past weekend. And one of the topics for many of the doctors were what's called a failed back syndrome, where surgery failed and the patient still had tremendous, tremendous pain. And there's a variety of things that they traditionally do, but for the most part, as we were informed, it doesn't work. We've worked on thousands of these types of cases with our internal providers here in Minnesota and throughout our other clinics throughout the country. And one of the things that's always present is it's not so much that it is a failed surgery, it's so much that the origin of the problem was so great that surgical intervention did not make a noticeable change. It wasn't that the surgeon did a bad job, it's simply that the back symptoms were so progressed from the origin. In other words, what I'm meaning is, if I take all of the shock absorbers completely off your car, and we talked about this many times, and if you drive back and forth, work to home, you're not going to do a lot of damage. But if you drive coast to coast, all the force that's supposed to be going into your shock absorbers is now going to be going into the frame of your car. And it's going to do a considerable amount of damage. So much so that in some cases, you just might need a brand new car. In most cases, you just need new shock absorbers to fix that damage. So one of the things that I think is very, very important to understand is that until we, as a nation, start to understand that what we presently do is work on where problems end up and not where they're coming from, we are not going to solve the problem. It's just that simple. If you had an ankle sprain 50 years ago, the amount of time it's going to take you to come back to an active lifestyle is almost identical as it was 50 years ago. Technology has changed. I don't know too many of you out there, whether you're a provider or whether you're a patient, who drive a 50-year-old car. So why would we continue to think that if we do something over and over and over and over and over again, we're going to see a different outcome? Why do you think there's so many people like you? If you're in pain, you're not alone. That is the number one problem in the world. Why? Could it be as simple as we haven't found where it's coming from? Could it be that simple? Well, I believe, and this is just my own personal belief, based on 75,000 patients that we've treated, that if you treat the origin, the results are going to be dramatically different. However, if you treat the origin and you do not neurologically retrain the patient on how to move correctly, I believe every single time you make a compensatory move, which means, for those of you out there in pain, if it hurts on the right side, I can assure you your brain is going to move you over to your left side. And the second that happens, that becomes a neural pattern. And it becomes a pattern that you start to live with from that point forward. Think of yourself now as a gear in a very sophisticated machine. And your gears are supposed to run in harmony together. They're supposed to mesh. And for those of you who are mechanical out there, will know immediately. If that gear doesn't mesh and gets just the slightest bit out of alignment, you are soon going to have a mechanical problem with that gear. What makes you think that if you change the way you're supposed to move, you're not going to cause a problem? Not only are you going to cause a problem, but you're going to consistently keep sending through your nervous system that there is a problem, even when there might not be. I see thousands of people who have absolutely no pain. They are asymptomatic, and they still do not move correctly because of a previous injury. Conversely, I see thousands of people who are heavily sympathetic, which means they're in a lot of pain, and they have never changed the way they move. Look around you. Walk down a street. Look at the people you work with in your building. Not one of them does not have a compensation pattern of some kind. That compensation pattern is not a physical pattern. I believe it is a neurological pattern. And I believe, for those of you in pain, every time you move into that pattern, you're resending a signal back over to your body, and it's going to cause pain because it's a reinforcement of the pain. What neurotherapy does, what the ARP Wave System does, it is a neurological retraining therapy which gets you out of a neurocompensation pattern, builds your ability to move efficiently without pain, and when that happens, you're no longer neurologically reinforcing the fact that you have a problem. This becomes incredibly important in a competitive athlete, which we have, like I said, we have 1,000 of the most elite athletes in the world from every sport you can possibly imagine. The one thing that I consistently have to address with all of our therapists when we're dealing with a high-level professional athlete is we cannot allow a neurocompensation pattern, because if we do and we do not address it, we have a dramatic change in physical performance. And these people are paid millions and millions of dollars a year for that physical performance. But you, who are not an athlete, who's the overwhelming number of our patients, out of that 75,000 patients that we've treated, out of the thousands we treat each month, each one of those patients is just like you listening to this show today. They're not a professional athlete. They're not an athlete of any kind. They're just people in pain. And what we're addressing is the neurological origin of that pain, and then we have to neurologically retrain you on where you don't consistently keep reinforcing the fact that you have pain. If we change your pattern, you will live and move freely without pain. Give us that opportunity. You've got absolutely nothing to lose. Give us a call here. We'd be more than happy to set up an appointment with you with one of our local providers. Our local phone is 954-256-0045. On the web, you can get us at painmanagementnetwork.com. Providers, we have patience for you. We'd love to have the opportunity to demonstrate to you and to your patient that neurotherapy is something you absolutely need to add to your practice to satisfy the overwhelming number of people in pain and restricted motion. So, again, it costs the provider nothing to determine if what we're saying is true, and it costs you, the patient, nothing to see if what we're saying is true. Because it, quite frankly, sounds too good to be true. And generally speaking, anything that sounds too good to be true is. In this case, folks, I've been working on this for 40 years. This is not new. This is not experimental. The fact that we've been able to do what we've been able to do and have the clientele that we have and have the studies to demonstrate and prove what I'm saying is true, the only way you are going to know if this therapy can change your quality of life is get into one of our providers as fast as you can. Go through one therapeutic session with neurotherapy, and you will know beyond a shadow of a doubt if it can help you or not. When we come back after the short commercial is coming up shortly, I'll talk to you about a patient that I met in Washington, D.C., a doctor's wife. And we'll talk a little bit, and I've asked her if it's okay to do that. And she said, yes, I'm certainly not going to give out her name or anything of that nature to break any confidentiality. But she said, you need to tell people more about this. Her husband, who's been an anesthesiologist for over 20 years, says, you need to tell people about this. People need to know that there is an other way of dealing with it other than an epidural, other than oxycodone, other than Percocet, other than any form of narcotic, other than other forms of therapy. There is another way. It's an addition to your provider's practice. It is not a subtraction. Providers, we're not asking you to stop doing anything you're doing because you're extremely successful and very good at doing it. All we're saying is there is another tool that can be used, which you're presently not using, which will assist in dealing with the other side of that coin. All of the providers that you know are trained in the physical side of the symptom, whether they be a surgeon, MD, that's their training.
Individuals who have been unsuccessful.
Extremely skilled at that. Extremely skilled at that. So I hear our tones coming up. We'll be right back, and I will tell you the story that I found out this weekend, which was quite exciting.
Individuals who have been unsuccessful in eliminating their pain are invited to obtain a free ARP Wave System treatment. Register now on our website at painmanagementnetwork.com to arrange a free ARP Wave System treatment from one of the doctors in our ARP Wave South Florida provider network. You can also call 954-256-0045 in order to schedule your free evaluation and first treatment. Contact us now at 954-256-0045 or visit our website www.painmanagementnetwork.com and register to begin a new life pain-free. The ARP Wave Provider Network is also currently looking for doctors to join our network. We have an increasing number of patients who are looking for doctors to perform treatments using the ARP Wave System to help them eliminate pain they are experiencing. Contact us now at 954-256-0045 to have a representative come out and see you, or visit our website, www.painmanagementnetwork.com, and register for an appointment with one of our representatives. Once you are in our network, we can start referring you patients located in your area looking for doctors performing ARP Wave System treatments.
We are back, and welcome once again to Pain Free Today. I'm your host, Denis Thompson. We left off by me kind of setting up a story that I met this wonderful, wonderful lady, this wonderful couple at the pain conference in Washington, D.C. this past weekend. And she really, really invited me to tell her story because I think it's a very, very important story for people to hear, especially providers. I met this woman on a Friday afternoon. And her husband told me that she had been living in pain, and keep in mind he's an anesthesiologist who is a board-certified pain specialist. Been living in pain for over 20 years, 25 years to be exact. She was diagnosed at an early age with what's commonly called scoliosis. So for those of you who aren't providers, that just simply means there's a gigantic S in the middle of your back. In other words, your spinal cord or your spinal column looks like an S. So it's a deformity in the spinal column. So she had extraordinary pain in her hip on her right side. She could not walk without pain of 10, and again, pain of 10 is excessive, almost suicidal type of pain. Shots would help a little bit for a short period of time, and then she would experience the pain again. When she stood up, coming out of a chair, she was incapable of putting her left foot down flat on the ground. So her knee was jutted forward. All of the load was on her right side. When you would lay her down on her tummy, you could see that one side was about 3.5 to 4 inches higher than the other side. And you could see how all the muscles were pulling and very tight. The tone in her back was incredibly tight, and she just felt tight all the time. Now, for those of you listening to this right now, if you'd like to know what this lady's been going through for 25 years, I'll just give you a simple test. Ball up your fist, pull your arm into a curl, and keep curling it as hard as you possibly can. And then take your other hand and put it right on top of your arm so you can press it even more. And sooner or later, your muscle's going to almost start to burn, and then it's going to start to cramp, and then it's going to start to hurt. Now imagine that feeling, and just keep doing it, and imagine that feeling 24/7, 365 for over 25 years. It's an absolute miracle that this woman was able to have any kind of quality of life whatsoever. So her husband said, would you look at my wife? And I said, I'd be happy to. And so we began to introduce her to the ARP Wave system. And the first thing we did is, as we said earlier in the segment, was we had to identify, was the nervous system firing the way it's supposed to? Was it sending the right signals to the muscles to do what they're supposed to do? Well, the mere virtue of her having scoliosis said no. But we did the test anyway, and she failed miserably. We then utilized one of the neurotherapy techniques, and we got her nervous system to fire more efficiently, so the muscles now could at least absorb force. For 25 years, they hadn't been able to absorb force. So now we have the muscles absorbing force. This took about 15 minutes. She didn't feel it at all. Still in pain. I mean, we're not addressing the pain at this moment in time. We're just getting her body prepared. It's kind of like what we said earlier today. If I come over and I turn off the lights in your house and you try to put a light switch on, it's not going to work. Well, if the nervous system isn't working, no amount of therapy is going to make a change. Obviously, for 25 years, it hasn't made any change whatsoever. Why? Because the lights were out. The switch was off. The power was off. If you turn the power off, no amount of therapy, no amount of drugs, no amount of anything is going to work. It's just that simple. we're an electrical appliance. You pull the plug out of an electrical appliance, doesn't work. Put the plug back in, it works. Just the same way your body is. So after we got the nervous system firing correctly, and it was about, maybe 15 to 20 minutes, then we had to go in the second part of the system, for the providers, you'll find this extraordinarily interesting, we have to go in and find out where the neurological origin of those symptoms are coming from. She knew where she hurt. So we would put an electrode right on the spot where it hurt. And we take another electrode and we put it off to the side of her body someplace because we know that that's not going to be the spot where we end up. And we know we're going to have to start moving that electrode around. So we turned the power up to a designated level, and she said, yep, I feel it. And then we say, okay, now as we drag this electrode all throughout your body, you tell us when we get to a spot where the sensation of what you're feeling is much greater. So we're going, and we start on her hip because the hip was the primary area. Then we went into her back, which is the secondary area. Very, very, very little sensation. So we knew right away that that was not where the signal was coming from. We searched up and down her back, absolutely found nothing. We searched up and down the back of her legs, found absolutely nothing. Had her turn over on her back now, so she's now face up, because keep in mind, this is the opposite side of the body that doesn't hurt. And we start doing the same scanning process. And when we got to the quad, in other words, her leg muscle, on the left side, the sensation went up quite a bit. So we knew right away that that's where the primary signal was coming from that was causing the muscles in the back not to do what they were supposed to do. We then anchored that electrode at that spot. This whole process took about 3.5 minutes. We then did the very same thing on with the other electrode that we had grounded out of the way. And we dragged that all around her body, and we found the second spot. So now we have the beginning of the trail of the signal that's causing the problem, and we have the end of the trail of the signal that's causing the problem. And then we had her go through active range of motion that she's never, ever been able to do before. We had to neurologically and cognitively show her that she could do something she hadn't done for 25 years, which was get in and out of a chair with both feet flush on the ground and 50-50 distribution of weight. And once she did that, and once her brain picked up on the fact that she was doing that, you started to see this smile. And I asked her, what level of pain are you in as you're doing this movement? And there was no pain. And I said, when's the last time you got out of a chair without pain? A simple task of getting out of a chair without pain. And she said, it's been over 25 years. What was the difference? The difference is we're stimulating a signal that's causing the pain, and we're overriding the signal that's causing the pain, but more importantly, we're changing the reinforcement mechanism. Now, if I had her stand up, move her leg, not touch down with both feet, have her mimic the same pattern she did before, we would have had absolutely no results, because that movement, that break in proper movement, would have sent the same signal it's been sending for 25 years. When I changed the way she got up and allowed her to see the difference, it immediately changed her outcomes. Once I did that, we raised the threshold up. We elevated the intensity of the current coming into her body. As that happened, she went right back to her old habit. We then broke that habit at that stimulus, and we did that 3 more times. At the end of that session, which was about 31 minutes total, at the end of that session, she stood up without pain. She lifted her leg up without pain, and she thought she was cured. And I said, no. All we did is, remember that little exercise I just gave you where I had you flex your arm? All I did is let you extend your arm back out. And if you did that you saw immediately you had relief in your arm. The reason for that is when you're in pain, you're in that concentric contraction. She'd been in that contraction for over 25 years. All I did is, just like I asked you to do, flex your arm and then straighten it out. When you straightened it out, the muscle called the tricep lengthened. And when that happened, you had immediate relief in your bicep. What this woman saw is the muscles in her back, because we were working on the muscles in her legs, immediately released. And when that happened, she had no pain, and the most beautiful, the most brilliant, the most heartwarming smile you will ever see was on her face. Then her husband said, I'm curious, what do you think that did for her elevated glute? When we looked at her, she was really, like I said, she's about 4 inches elevated on the right side. And I said, well, I don't know, let's see. We laid her down on the table, flat on the table. Her husband absolutely could not believe what he just saw. She was completely neutral. In other words, both glutes were exactly the same. Both feet were exactly the same, and that's the first time he's seen that in 25 years. So can this system help you? Absolutely. Please give us a call. Let us show you. Call us at 954-256-0045. Till next week, this is Denis Thompson, your host, and be pain-free today.
You've been listening to Pain Free Today with your host, Denis Thompson. Denis is the creator of the ARP Wave System. Send in your questions for next week's show to questions@painmanagementnetwork.com. The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly those of its hosts, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of the station, its staff, management, or sponsors.